Welcome to a special edition of Monarchist Minute. I'm Victor Smith. The Francis Scott Key Bridge, which is less than 5 minutes driving distance from my house, collapsed at 1:30 this morning. 6 people are still missing. The bridge was the third largest bridge in, I believe, the world of its type, spanning well over a mile. This bridge connected the town of Dundalk to just south of just south of Baltimore into Anne Arundel County, and it was a major part of the Baltimore Beltway. For those of you who don't know, the Baltimore Beltway, to put it in a European context, is kind of like a ring road that surrounds the city of Baltimore. And also of note, the Francis Scott Key Bridge sort of connected the port, was right near the Port of Baltimore. The Port of Baltimore is one of the largest ports in the world. It is the largest car intake port in the country, especially in the eastern seaboard. The port is obviously closed right now, and that is going to mean a great deal of delays in shipping, not just of cars, but of other cargo, among other things. At the time of the collapse, there was a group of construction workers on the southbound side working. A tractor trailer was on the bridge that I believe is now in the water. The economic impact of this bridge collapse is going to be catastrophic. Epic proportions.
Especially given the fact that the city of Baltimore already struggles so much economically.
A local brewer told local media that they have been cut off from Anne Arundel County, because if you're coming from Anne Arundel County into the part of Baltimore that I am in, you either use the Key Bridge or you don't come at all. Traffic patterns are going to be absolutely catastrophic. A 5-minute trip is probably going to take you about an hour in peak hours. President Biden has already held a press conference. The federal government will be paying the entirety of the cost of either repairing or replacing the bridge. Because obviously we need a port and we need it right now. Conspirator-in-chief Alex Jones has insinuated that this was a cyber attack on the vessel. For those who don't know, a ship ran into the bridge, causing the collapse. The ship lost power twice. They attempted to drop anchor, but it was too late. I cannot begin to express my incredulity at the very thought of it being a cyber attack. Because if this was a cyber attack, this was the most poorly planned cyber attack in history. If you were going to do this as a cyber attack, I'm not even going to say it because I don't want to encourage people. This is, people are saying this is the worst moment in the history of the city of Baltimore. No, that's not correct. The worst moment in the city of Baltimore was when the cannons of Fort McHenry were pointed toward the city. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that happened in the Civil War. Because of Confederate sympathizers that were living in the city of Baltimore, the Union thought that they had to threaten them by not letting them rise up or leave the Union with the state of Maryland because, well, if Maryland left, then Washington, D.C. would be surrounded on all sides by Confederacy, and that would not have been a good time for Mr. Lincoln.
So,
The second worst day in the city of Baltimore's history was a fire back in 1905, which destroyed a lot of buildings. I cannot begin to tell you the amount of destruction that fire caused. Actually, it was before 1905. I'm thinking about the year my great-great-grandfather arrived in this country to help rebuild. He was a stonemason from Italy. The third worst day was when the Baltimore Colts snuck out in the dead of night in a snowstorm, costing a lot of people a lot of jobs, and costing the whole city its NFL team. This bridge collapse would have ranked higher on this list if it happened during peak traffic hours. As you are watching this right now, Archbishop Lori is currently offering a mass at the Cathedral of Mary Our Queen for the victims of this tragedy. This collapse of this bridge, it is going to take a long time for even the port to be open again. And you don't even know how important that port is. Appalachia needs our port to be open for the exporting of coal. The Midwest needs our port open to receive supplies from Europe. Because remember, it's very hard to get to Lake Michigan from Europe. People need to receive their cars. The Port of Baltimore does that. That ain't going to happen
So,
until the ports reopen.
Victor, if I may,
Go ahead.
can we get a sort of call it a play-by-play of how things went down from your perspective, from what you remember?
1:30 in the morning, I heard a boom from my window.
And
I couldn't really go to sleep after that.
I can imagine. Yeah, I imagine that was like earth-shakingly loud. But at what point did you figure out that the bridge had given out?
When I finally was able to go sleep for a bit after I woke up, I looked up what happened.
I didn't know if there was a huge racket following up with like emergency response and everything.
I live far enough away to where I wouldn't be hearing a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you lived in the absolute immediate neighborhood around the bridge, you probably would have had sirens go off all night. Local media have been in the neighborhood all day. And I can expect traffic on one of the major streets in my little part of Baltimore to be ram-packed with traffic at all times because of this bridge collapse. Because you absolutely need to use it in order to get to other places. Now that the bridge is gone.
Well, now that the bridge is gone, something tells me this shipping company is gonna have hell to pay for it.
Yeah, and there is going to be. I mean, that's complicated, and that is beyond the scope of what I wanted to talk about.
If I
What I
remember,
will go
go
ahead.
ahead. Okay. If I remember correctly, the company is based out of Singapore.
Yes,
So it is
absolutely.
going to be interesting seeing how the jurisdictions pan out.
Well, the government's going to need to pay out the money now and then sue later
Hmm.
in this sort of tragedy because of how important the Port of Baltimore is. It's more important to get everything fixed. The bridge itself, it's done. You're not going to be able to repair that thing. The whole thing is in the water.
Right. They could
You're going to have to rebuild the whole thing. And that, I'm going to ballpark around 2 to 3 years. People
well,
are saying and it's going to cost a ton of money.
honestly, I could see repairing the bridge taking longer, but cleanup should actually be rather easy. Given that it's a metal skeleton bridge, really all you need to do is get a bunch of crane ships out there and start lifting up the debris. Which will be time consuming, but it shouldn't be that difficult, so
Well,
And what did he say?
when the bridge was built back in the 70s, it sunk a governor's career because of how much money was put into it and the political kickbacks that went about in building it originally. Oh, and did I mention hazmat? The bridge was the hazmat route.
Oh, that's a bad day. That's a nightmare. So
Yep,
where are they going
the
to
bridge.
reroute the hazmat? Because obviously they can't let that through the city.
They're going to have to. They have to go around the other side of the Beltway. They have to go around the other side of the Beltway, which is the western part is the more populated part. So that traffic is going to be an absolute standstill. It's going to remind you effectively of DC traffic at any time of the day.
Oh dear God. I don't like traveling in big cities, but I do remember enough about DC traffic to remember that you want to avoid it as much as possible.
And for the people who live on the west side, you are not going to be able to avoid it whatsoever.
Yeah, sucks to be the west side, I guess. Hmm.
Well, the east side's even more screwed because we got locked out of going to one of our major thoroughfares for commuting to and from work is gone. There's going to be a lot more said on infrastructure in general. There's a lot more that can be said about infrastructure in general, but crumbling of America has come to my own shores. And I never thought I'd say this, but I am grateful to President Biden right now.
Because of the infrastructure bill?
Not really because of the bill, but because he showed up
Oh,
and he
he showed
said
up? Yeah. I hadn't realized he had
he
shown up yet. I didn't see anything about that as of yet.
well, I don't actually I'm not sure if he showed up yet or not, but he made a statement, a very strong statement,
I'll have to
and
look.
the governor held a press conference earlier this morning. I'm surprised that our Congressman Kwesi Mfume was not present for this. I am extremely surprised.
I'll have to look that up.
Yep. So we can talk more about infrastructure as a whole later, but I just wanted to get this out to you guys now so that everybody, first of all, knew I was okay, and second of all, knew all of the ramifications of this collapse. And I will say, as a closing point here, that that pray for the people of Baltimore. I know that we're going to be able to get through this, but it's going to take a lot getting used to traffic rerouting patterns and everything else along that front. And it's times like these where we all need to be together. At this point, I do not know of any sort of donation place you can give money to. I am aware that there is a Seafarers Association. I don't know if they have a donation page up, but and I am sure that as details become known of these people, their identities get released, their families will probably have GoFundMe's up. please give to those GoFundMe's as and if you are able. Like, these people, like, these jobs are very difficult jobs. They're hard jobs. I'm not sure how much they get paid, but we're hurting right now, and we could use all the help we can get. So until a week and a half from now, when we're actually live for our next scheduled episode, or heaven forbid we have to do this again, may God bless you and may God bless the United States of America.